of celebrities are using their platforms in support of Israel and to fight misinformation, including Nathaniel Buzolic, the former Vampire Diaries star. He's in Israel speaking to leaders, discussing topics, including the echo chambers in culture right now, what it means to be pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli, and fact-checking history. We want to welcome Nathaniel to Morning in America. Thanks for joining us.
Boris, thanks for having me.
It's an important topic. You likely heard about those protests at the White House. I was curious about what you thought about the media coverage of those rallies and how your conversations are being received publicly, because this is such a divisive issue.
Yeah, it is divisive. And I think a lot of people are entering into this conversation with very limited understanding of what's happened for the last 75 years and how the pro-Palestinian narrative is constantly presented to paint Jews and Israelis as the problem. So, even in my hometown of Sydney, I saw the burning of the Israeli flag just a few days after the tragic events of October 7th. And I think what we really need to understand is most of the people at these rallies, at these pro-Palestinian movements, refuse to accept the elephant in the room that Hamas is a terrorist organization with one goal and one goal alone, which is to kill, destroy, and harm any Jewish presence in the land.
And that's something that you really can't convince someone to change their mind about, no matter how much information you put forward, because this is such a strong, deeply rooted bit of narrative and rhetoric that's been purported by some folks on this particular side. But you're an actor, you travel to a war zone, you interviewed the former prime minister. What are you learning that most Americans don't know?
I think most Americans try to look at Middle Eastern politics and culture with a Western lens. And it's very, very difficult to understand the Islamic and Arab world if you've never lived amongst it. I was fortunate enough to grow up in an Islamic community in Australia, where all my friends were from the Middle East. They think different, their culture is different, their goals are different. Islamic culture is honor and shame. And the world doesn't understand that for the last 75 years, the radical Islamic ideology that wants to destroy Israel has lost every single time, every single war. They've started every single war and they've lost every single war. And the only way to appease a culture that's based in honor and shame is to give them the victory. So that's what they're going for right now. I think Americans need to realize this isn't just a war between Israelis and Palestinians, but this is an ideological war. If we allow evilness and wickedness to be glorified and celebrated like we saw on the 7th of October, that is going to hit our shores, that is going to enter into our communities, and America is going to be the next stop. The fact that people are protesting and celebrating Hamas in America is a shocking day for people all over the world.
Yeah, well, I think there are a lot of people just looking at horror, looking in horror at how people are responding to the images that we can actually see on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram in too much graphic detail. But I know your faith is really important to you. How does that inform the conversation? You're speaking to young people who, according to our own NewsNation polling, most of them believe more in the pro-Palestinian cause and have negative beliefs about Israel and the Israeli government and this particular strike campaign. How does your faith inform how you have these conversations with compassion, with love?
Yeah, from a biblical point of view, Jesus was very, very clear about end times. He spoke about the Jewish people being under threat once again. He spoke about mass deception. He spoke about wars and rumors of wars. I would say that any Christian who thinks they can sit in a middle seat between what's unfolding in Israel has no biblical understanding and no relationship with Jesus. I'm here as a Christian. I've come to bring a message of love and hope to a Jewish nation that is consistently and constantly under attack. They are the real victims. They've been the victims throughout human history. And the sad reality is it took 6 million Jews to be brutally murdered during the Holocaust for the world to care for 75 years. That's it. After 75 years, the world has forgotten about the Jewish identity once again. We forget about history. We have no longer accepted critical thought. And as a Christian, I would really say to anyone watching this, I read my Bible. I believe in Jesus as the Messiah, and I've been sharing a hope with these people. And many people are going to be deceived by the pro-Palestinian movement that is only motivated by one thing. It's a hatred towards the Jewish identity in the land. So I believe that many Christians will be deceived during this time. And I think this is just part of the mass deception. You know, one thing we learn about the devil is he's an expert at lying. And when you actually start digging into what the pro-Palestinian movement does often, they lie. I mean, just in an earlier segment, you were seeing how AI is being used to create fake nudes of people all around college campuses and high schools in America. We've already seen that they've been using the same technology to create images that will make people's hearts break. But we saw an image of a Palestinian child with 6 fingers because they use AI. Nothing can be trusted that comes out of Gaza because, unfortunately, Hamas controls the Gaza Board of Health and Ministry, and they're giving us the numbers.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.